smell of a jam jar you got here?
Warning. The House of Mystery contains demons, angels, elementals, magicians, wizards, apparitions, adult language, and discussions. If you're easily offended, do not enter the House of Mystery.
All right, then. On with the show.
All right, hello, welcome everyone to the House of Mystery, the John Constantine and Friends podcast. I am Michael, the curator and host of the House of Horrors, and the demon bisexual butler, David Sabal, is here. Hello.
Hello, everybody.
How are you today?
Doing good. The House of Mystery is clean, sire.
Good. Keep that place spick and span, please.
Except for the ghost in the basement.
What about the jizz stains? Did you get those this time? Because I've been asking for quite some time now, and I don't want to have to send you back down to hell. Okay.
We've sent the ghost to the basement, so most of the jizz stains are down there now.
Wait. That ghosts are creating jizz stains, but it's ghost jizz then, doesn't it? You can't see it, right?
Well, I guess you couldn't, but hey, I don't know what the ghosts are doing, so
It's ectoplasm.
It's probably
all over your
ectoplasm.
face. All right, that's quite a way to open up the show, but would anybody expect anything else from the House of Mystery?
absolutely not.
All right, so Dave, today you and I are going to continue our discussion on Swamp Thing, the current 2021 10-issue run, with a discussion on issue number 6, titled In My Infancy. So, this issue, Dave, pulls back a bit from the philosophical and delves into the introspective. Is that a good
That's
way
a better
of saying?
way of saying it, yeah.
Yeah. This is the aspect of the story that we, David, have actually been wondering about. When are we
Waiting.
gonna get those blanks filled in? What's Levi's connection to the green? How does his family factor in? Where does his brother come into play? There has been allusions to his brother having a major role in the contamination of the green.
Yes.
But that's all we have been given, and that's not a negative. I'm not saying that as a negative. I'm just saying it as a fact. They have been kind of baiting us for 6 issues. Let's say 8 issues, if we take into account the 2-part future state.
Yes.
Would you call it an epilogue or prologue? It's almost like an
both.
epilogue.
It's
It is
kinda both.
It is both, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if we throw those into the mix, we're now on 8 issues. So it is time for us to start pulling back the layers a bit when it comes to the brother and what actually is happening with the green and what ultimately caused it.
Yes.
And it seems like we're getting there. We didn't get all the answers, but they are getting there. So I have a feeling that with issue 7, we're probably going to get some big
Reveals.
Yeah.
Yeah, because and I like the fact that the actions of the last issue is what basically starts the dominoes falling, because it has to start when Levi, essentially where we last left him off, Swamp Thing blew himself up and disintegrated himself with the bomb from issue number 5.
The bomb.
So here we pick up after all that, and Levi literally has to go through this almost rebirth process.
I love it.
And I love it.
Yeah.
I thought it was really smart, but I love the fact that they connected the one theme that's been going on about memories.
Yeah.
And in order for Levi to continue kind of his rebirthing process, he has to literally drag the memory out of him.
Yes.
And reach and find the memory. And that's how we get introduced to the backstory. And I thought it was a very it was
clever.
Normal. It was clever.
Yeah.
But normally, we would say oh my God, flashbacks, here we
Dude,
go.
You
right?
and I are of one mind at this point, I think.
But the way they used the flashback here made sense to the story that we're having right now.
Yes.
Because up to this point, that's what the Swamp Thing has been saying is his powers are all based. Yes, he could grow a gigantic tree and envelop the world in greenery,
and
that's his
possibly
power.
blossom a penis, if you will.
Apparently.
Yeah.
But
Look at my penis is blossoming. Look,
but
it's
from
rose petals.
from rose petals or mushrooms.
Oh, wow.
But like the thing that Alec Holland started Levi's journey was the true power of the green is its memory, its knowledge.
Yes.
That's what actually is the true power of the Swamp Thing.
Yeah.
And I love that in this issue, we kind of actually see it firsthand now, the power and effect, the power of memory. Because that's what helps bring Levi back. He's forced to remember the memory that he kind of like, apparently he stuck in his brain and buried.
Yeah. I am right with you, Dave. 100% agree with everything you said, especially about the backstory aspect, which I'm going to backtrack just a bit. Because as I was saying, the family element is a big factor with the story, obviously. And Ram V mapped out this connection via a backstory. I don't even want to call it a flashback. I mean, yes, probably it is a flashback as he's scripting. It's probably written as a flashback. But thankfully, it was not in the form of a traditional flashback. And that's what we always say. We always say, if you have to give us backstory, please find a creative way to give us a flashback.
Yes.
And that's exactly what Ram V did. He found a creative way to get inside the mind of Levi, where we learned a bit about his family and their ideological outlook concerning nature, culture, and their ancestral land. And I appreciate how the story was told. The narrative choices were intriguing. Levi was blown to bits in the last issue, as you mentioned, and the Green is attempting to repair his body, while at the same time, the Suicide Squad is poisoning the land where Levi's family is from in an attempt to draw him out.
And dude, the choice of characters for the Suicide Squad in this group's iteration in this, I thought was really smart because they blend well with Ram V's story.
Yeah.
You have the continuation of showing the ugliness of humanity by bringing in a character like Heatwave and Peacemaker.
Yeah, it was a good call.
And then you have the sheer monstrous side of the Suicide Squad, where you bring in Chemo and Parasite, especially Parasite. I've always had a love for the character of Parasite, not just because to me he's one of the most underutilized villains of Superman, but he honestly is one of the most powerful villains out there. Because essentially, he constantly feeds.
What was he doing? Okay, what was he doing? Is that going to come back at some point? Because they made it a point to say that I'm feeding, but we don't know what he was actually eating.
He was eating the green.
Is that what he was doing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because the power of the parasite is he can feed off of any energy.
Okay.
Any energy. It doesn't matter what it is. So imagine a being right now that can feed and tap into the green and use it as his power battery. That is a cool villain to put against Swamp Thing.
Yeah.
Power-wise.
That'll be interesting to see what they do with it.
And I'm sorry, I was really excited when you find out the one character here that they brought in is the Nightmare Nurse.
Yeah, Dave. Okay, so I was surprised to see the Suicide Squad, but were you aware that this was part of a 2-part crossover?
Yeah,
with the Suicide Squad.
With the Suicide Squad.
So apparently, Suicide Squad issue number 6 connects to Swamp Thing number 6.
Number 6.
Now, can I say this, Dave? This is how you do a crossover.
Yes.
Because you don't really need to read Suicide Squad number 6 at all to know what's going on. Sure, if you want some backstory on the characters that were chosen and the lead up, but honestly, this is how you do a crossover, because my biggest problem with crossovers is that they feel simply like billboards many of the times. Hey guys, check out issue 77 of so-and-so comic book to find out more. It's just simply a way to get more money. And I understand this is a business, but many times it just pulls you out of the immediate story.
Yes.
Now, this was so seamless. By the way, Robbie Thompson is the one writing Suicide Squad currently, right?
Yes, he is.
He's our hero
He is our hero.
for reasons that we won't get into right now, but he's so great. So, yeah, he's currently writing Swamp Thing, which makes me actually want to go back now and find out exactly what he's doing from that end, because
Suicide Squad,
his
yeah.
choice as Suicide Squad is very unique. Have we ever seen is it Chemo?
Chemo, yeah.
Have we ever seen Chemo and Parasite?
No.
And
never.
I mean, and Nightmare Nurse, come on.
Yeah.
Justice League Dark fame, and you have her as a member of the Suicide Squad. That's pretty fucking cool.
And you have Heatwave and Peacemaker as like the human element of the Suicide Squad. And a thing I thought was really impressive for Ram V, his continuity of trying to show the ugliness of humanity compared to like the otherworldly characters. Do you notice that the humans in Ram V's story tend to be portrayed as more monstrous
Absolutely.
than them? And in the Suicide Squad element, it's the one person that, if you're a fan of this character, you know how evil she can be, especially since she scares John Constantine.
Yeah.
Is the Nightmare Nurse.
Oh, she don't scare me, David.
And-
Wink, wink, if you know what I mean.
And the Nightmare Nurse in this scenario,
Quick, I need a Band-Aid.
in this scenario, she's the brains of the operation. I love the scene when she's talking to Peacemaker.
Yeah.
And Peacemaker saying, "Man, we should have got him right here." And Nightmare Nurse is like going, "Peacemaker, do you know what you're up against?" And she goes on to tell him, "I've faced this creature before."
Yeah.
Of course, because she's from Justice League Dark.
I'm glad they brought that in for continuity purposes.
Yeah.
Because she was a team member of Justice League Dark alongside
Swamp Thing.
Swamp Thing.
Yeah. And she's like going, she knows the creature. And is in essence, the demon in the group is I guess you could say, the more human character.
Well, she's always been a very complicated character
Yeah.
if used appropriately.
Because she understands, she understands Swamp Thing's methods. And she's like going, right now, you just injured him. We don't know if he's badly injured or you just made him angry.
Well, I want to say volume 2 or 3 of the New 52 Justice League Dark run, she came face to face with his wrath.
Yes.
She tried to create another version of the Avatar through demonic powers, and that majorly backfired on her. So Nightmare Nurse is an interesting character.
Oh, yeah.
She was originally introduced. I didn't know this. Apparently, she's a fairly new character.
Yes.
I had thought she had a longer history with John Constantine, but no, she actually was introduced during the New 52 run.
Yeah, she was actually introduced in The Phantom Stranger.
Yeah.
And she was created by Dan DiDio, who started the whole, Trinity War.
Yeah, which was
But
Trinity shit.
out of Trinity War, we got the creation of Asa.
Yes.
And
now,
Asa, I'm sorry.
yes.
The only thing that would have made it perfect is if Constantine carried on from number 5. Because, dude, I love the relationship between Asa and John Constantine.
Yeah.
Because she's the one woman that John Constantine is terrified of.
I know. That's a shame, too. Yeah, so that stuff was all cool, but ultimately it was... I mean, I think it's fair to say that it was fluff, because it's the stuff you need in a comic book, and it works, but the most interesting and telling aspect of this entire issue is the title. I love when titles truly mean something. That's a lost art. I love when it's used in television, when each episode of a TV show is titled in such a way that you can derive meaning from that title. And almost in some way, if you know what to look for, it may actually help you interpret the actual text of the TV series or movie or comic book, whatever you're reading or watching. And this title, In My Infancy, is fantastic for many reasons. I'm about to get nerdy and break it down. What can we infer from this title? Possibly, and Levi's infancy being the key word, the key word here. Infancy, of course, meaning an early stage of development, which can be attributed to his former ignorance. His life before the green was small. He only saw things from a one-dimensional, narrow perspective.
Yeah.
Through his connection to the green, his eyes have now been opened, and he's able to see the multi-dimensional facets of life and their assigned purpose, possibly even finding his true purpose. And the way this was depicted was through those moments he had with his father
Yeah.
and brother. The memories reminded him of home, and the conversation with his father revealed some potential contention between the two of them due to an opposing set of ideological principles. His father seemed to have been displeased with Levi's choices. The purpose of these scenes, in my opinion, are designed to show that Levi is possibly seeing the error of his ways while he is being reborn through the green. The knowledge of the green has opened his eyes, and now he's reflecting on these memories. In my infancy, I was so much smaller. And to speak philosophically, the self is contemplating or pondering the choices of the not self
Yes.
and seeking wisdom, identity, and purpose. Boom. I love Ram V. Listen, this isn't me coming up with this stuff. This guy is writing this shit.
Oh yeah. I mean, dude, that moment between him and his father, when I pulled it up here, and it's one of the most poignant moments, is when his father, and you would expect in a lesser comic book writer's hands, they would portray the relationship between Levi and his father as very antagonistic and, you know, dramatic, overly dramatic.
Yeah,
Instead,
melodramatic, yeah.
Ram V makes it more realistic and relatable, in my opinion, because the father basically tells Levi, I think you are wanting to do good, son, and you know what you are bringing to this place with this deal. But how do you negotiate a deal where you don't understand what you're trading away?
In my infancy.
Yeah.
Yes.
You've never tried to understand this place.
Yeah.
And
He is seeing his mistakes,
he's
right?
seeing his mistakes. And like at that time, he probably doesn't understand what his father's saying, but now
He's
with what he's
seeing it.
been through,
Yep.
he's understanding it.
Yeah.
And I really dig it. I mean, the way I was really expecting the story to portray Levi's family, especially his brother, as very over the top villains. You know?
Yeah, so did I. I was expecting that.
Instead, what we got were basically very relatable family members. And like the real villain in the situation is the fact that Levi separated himself from his family for, I believe he said, over like 12 years.
No, it was 5.
Or it was?
I believe he said he hadn't seen his father for 5 years.
Yeah.
Although he may have had problems and have had.
Oh, half a decade. Yeah, he says that
Okay.
Jacob and them haven't seen each other in over half a decade. And
Yeah.
like, in essence, Levi was running away and trying to forget his memories. He was trying to forget his old self. And in doing so, that was the true villainous act, at least in this story, in regards to what this issue was trying to say. You know, the villainous moment is Levi basically wanting to get away from that. And think about it. I mean, ever since the series started, the idea of the green is to be at peace with one's memories, because your memories and knowledge is what gives you true power. Levi, essentially, you find out here, he threw it away because he felt that basically in order to better himself, he needed to get rid of it.
Yeah, I think you're onto something there, because I think the entire purpose of this issue was for him to reflect on his ignorance.
Yes.
And to show the error in his ways and possibly realize that his father was right. That his father was right, that he is putting emphasis on the non-important. In fact, I believe there was a saying, correct me if I'm wrong, that his father was actually disgruntled with the fact that he joined the side of capitalism,
Yes.
I believe
Yeah.
is what he had said. So there's a little bit of a social commentary there as well, which fits right in line with the idea of Levi's ignorance.
Ignorance.
And now he is seeing things through a different lens, a lens of wisdom and knowledge. He is realizing he has made mistakes.
And easily, Ram V could have fell into the trap of
telling us
the story, telling us like a story.
this is
about-
interpretive, by the way, listeners out there. This is why Ram V's a good writer, because this is interpretive. This isn't nowhere are you going to find in the comic book this actually being stated,
Exactly.
because that would be hacky.
It'd be hacky.
Yeah.
But imagine that that whole concept that you just brought up, how his father was very anti capitalism.
Yeah.
And Ram V could have, in someone else's hands, that could have gone sideways and you would have had an agenda piece right there.
Yeah.
Right? But instead, Ram V made it more digestible
Yeah.
and more natural when it came to the dialogue and the theme in his story.
Yeah, and also, I like the word choice there, natural, because it is very naturalistic of our times as well. When you look at the divisions between families, because of the heightened polarization of the political landscape and how it has separated families due to opposing ideological views.
Yeah.
And because of that, I mean, that's a real thing right now in today's environment. And to see Ram V even bring that into the fold and use those elements as a way to craft his story, I mean, again, shows Ram V's ability to understand the current state of our society and also understand human nature and our desire to be better, but also accepting our ignorance. I mean, that's a little bit of Socrates right there, right? I mean, Socrates was aware that he knew nothing, and because of that, he was wise. And that's a bit what we're seeing here with Levi, realizing, wow, I was so small in my infancy. I mean, it's so fucking good.
It is.
Yeah, so Ram V filled in some of the blanks. Levi's brother does not appear to be the villain we had thought. Now, that's not saying he's not a villain.
Yeah, at least not yet.
Yeah, we know that he's not a villain yet, but, I mean, those flashback sequences during the earlier issues really gave us the idea that his brother was into some dark shit.
Yes.
But now we see that his brother is actually a normal, cool guy.
Person.
That he was, there was nothing wrong with him. Even up to, 5 years ago or several months before? It wasn't until something happened, which I'm sure we're going to find out really soon, which ultimately is going to make this story that much more tragic. The fact that his brother is a good guy and, oh, look, something happened to him. Something happened to him. And what will make this even worse, Dave, is if it ends up being something Levi did accidentally.
Yeah. Because I'm
And
beginning
doesn't it look like it might be that?
I'm beginning to think so, because the one thing that I think a lot of readers that are reading the new series of the new Swamp Thing,
No.
they're missing the fact that normally when you have an Avatar of the Green, that means that the person who is chosen as the Avatar technically has died.
Right.
So that means that everything that we saw in the very beginning, especially in regards to Levi and his brother, something catastrophic happened to Levi's brother to drive him. And we know he did something to Levi. That's why he's separated from his brother.
Yes. Now, the mythos seems to be a little different. Now, traditionally, yes, you must die to become the Avatar of the Green, right?
Yes.
But also, Levi is very different than any other Avatar. The fact, especially in this issue, where we see his body being reformed.
Dude, that was cool.
It's so good. But there's no, like before we've talked about, okay, well, the green is a part of him, almost like it's a power. It's not, he is the green. It's almost like, hey, I'm like Superman, and this is just my power that I have.
Yes.
I'm able to manipulate the green. I can transform on a whim. But now we see that he's actually been blown apart.
Yes.
By that nuclear bomb, blown apart. And we see in that 2-page spread his body reforming. That the green is not building him into an avatar, but building him into his own body.
Into his own body.
Which, that in itself, Dave, again, I'm the John Constantine expert. You're the Swamp Thing expert. We've never seen this, correct? This type of avatar? This is very different.
That's what made Future State really interesting, because remember, by that point, we know that Swamp Thing is Levi. And by that point, that Swamp Thing was able to actually create people.
Yeah.
He was able to create basically people of the green.
That's right.
They didn't have any souls, which was really twisted when you found out that,
well, he realized humanity is what mattered.
Humanity was what mattered.
Yeah.
And then, like, that was the big twist, was finding out that all those people that looked like Swamp Thing people weren't really people. They were creations of Levi.
Well, we're assuming Levi, right?
We're assuming Levi.
But it's looking more and more like it was.
That it is Levi.
Oh, that means Alec Holland's gone forever then.
Essentially, yeah. Because you got to remember, especially when they did the issue with Alec Holland passed on that knowledge of the power of the green to Levi. And then you see Alec Holland disappear into the light, so to speak.
Yeah.
But that was basically his memory passing. Because you got to remember, that wasn't Alec Holland. That was the memories of Alec Holland.
Yeah.
Within the green.
Can we get some memories of the Nightmare Nurse, please?
I don't know if you want that, dude.
No, not her real form, like the fake form. Listen, I'm okay with fake forms. I've already said that, Dave. Like, listen, if as long as I see, boom, 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 I don't care about if you really look like that. So, what's that mean? Sounds now. That's the level of, so we talk like we're very intelligent about all the meanings, and then suddenly we get to like a third grade level, and we just use sounds to describe a woman's body.
That's what happens when you actually we introduce, the female form into our conversations.
We all revert to an adolescent state. It actually is true.
It is true.
Ladies out there, if you ever wonder about men's immaturity, it's always about women. It's just, yep, we're stupid.
We're stupid. Sorry. We're simple creatures.
That's how it is. We are permanently in our infancy. All right. So also, in the way of Ram V filling in some of the blanks, it does seem like his family does, and this is something we've been going back and forth on since the start of the series, it seems like his family does have some deeper connection to nature.
It does. It does.
I have a feeling that his father's words, "We are from the mud."
Yeah, did you...
I have a feeling it's much deeper than simply a comment that can be attributed to some theological lesson on the origins of life. It wasn't just a passing comment. I think it was there to make a statement. Like, hey, listen, we have a deeper connection to the green in some way, and possibly a way that we've never seen before in comics. It almost feels like a legacy of sorts, doesn't it?
It does.
Like, that's what they're going for. Do you think, as a Swamp Thing fan, Dave, do you think there's room for that meaning? Do you think the bulk of Swamp Thing fans would be okay that it's no longer, let's say, a random selection for the Avatar of the Green, but it's actually a legacy?
A legacy? I think,
or a dynasty, if you will.
I think it would work. I think it definitely works, especially since we don't know the complete story of why Levi was chosen.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's going to be one of the biggest reveals, is finding out why was Levi chosen. Was it something that was forced? Maybe that's why it's tied to, there's a contagion in the green right now.
Mm-hmm.
And
you think it's all connected to? You think all of it's connected to Levi and his family?
I think so.
Yeah.
I at this point, especially with the fact that in this one you do really get the sense that his family was very, I don't want to say backwaters, but they were very earthly people,
I think they were more in touch with nature.
More in touch with nature. That's what I was looking for.
Yeah.
And then, like, especially when the father basically says to him, like, he wanted to make sure his children knew where they came from. They came from the mud. And at that point, Ram V chose to emphasize that statement. And I'm like going, okay, from what we've known, something catastrophic and something, mystical happened with his brother. Something dealing with blood. Something dealing with some kind of, maybe some ritual. And maybe that's what, his family was tied to.
Do you think with the introduction of the nightmare nurse, do you think they will in fact tie in more of a magical element? Because first off, obviously the green is connected to magic, right?
Yes.
So magic, nature, they've already connected all of them in a previous, was it Justice League Dark, where they essentially said all of it's the same?
Yeah.
No. It was actually this run, Swamp Thing, when they said all of it travels in the same veins of the earth. Yeah. Do you think Nightmare Nurse's arrival is just a coincidence, or do you think there's a bigger purpose?
I want to think that there's a bigger purpose, especially in Ram V's hands. It just makes so much sense with the character choices that he has made to have in his story. Every character that he has chosen has served a purpose one way or another. And especially with the Nightmare Nurse, her whole shtick is the fact that she is cursed to constantly heal. She has to heal someone.
She can heal me. I'm broken.
She's a demon that is forever cursed to have to administer help when called upon.
I need CPR.
and you know what's so strange? I always wonder what I've completely forgot why Constantine is afraid of her.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you think about it, a demon who basically you summon and is forced to actually heal you, it doesn't sound too bad.
Yeah. Dave, there's a lot of things going on in this issue.
Oh, there is.
This is definitely one of those issues where they take a step back, just a few steps back, so that they can allow us to digest everything that we were given over the last 2 issues, and also reassess and set things up for some bigger reveals that are no doubt coming in the next 4 issues. So I'm really looking forward to it. Now, there's one element to this entire comic book that just has me confused, Dave.
Okay.
And maybe you can help me understand. The art. Mike Perkins is back.
Yes, he is.
What the fuck, dude? I want image continuity. Is it so much to ask for? Now, Mike Perkins, if you're listening, I love your art. We've said it in 5 issues. We're like, we love Mike Perkins' art. But then someone else pops up.
Yes.
For issue 6. And we're like, oh, this is fucking good. All right, well, I guess they're changing then. Whatever. All right, it sucks. We like image continuity, or I should say art continuity. I hate when art changes in the middle of a run, but okay, I get it. But then he comes back after 1 issue.
After 1 issue.
Why, David? Why? 1 issue. At least do 3.
And I felt sorry
it
for
fucks
Perkins.
with my OCD.
I felt so sorry for Perkins for this one because, like, he had to follow up, in my opinion, the better artist.
Well, is it
issue
better
5,
or just preferable to your taste?
Well, John McCrae was just fantastic for the last issue.
He was perfect for that story.
And for that story.
I agree. We definitely blew him during that discussion.
Because he got everything visually right
but
for
also,
a Constantine Swamp Thing story.
But also Mike Perkins has been doing a fantastic job, and we have been loving his art. It's not until issue 6 where we're like, we don't like the change of artist, but this other guy is really fucking good.
Exactly. And that's the problem. I mean, Mike Perkins he started us off really well. But then this is an example of why I say they need to stop doing the break.
I know.
Because, like, if you're only going to do 1 issue, then you're going to run into this problem because the main artist could be looked at as the lesser work artist. Because Robert McCrae, dude, his art in the last one is still my favorite compared to this. This is good. I love everything that Perkins did here, especially with the human characteristics he gave all his faces, and the monstrous elements he did wonderfully. But McCrae beat him. He beat him in from that last issue. And unfortunately, Mike Perkins is our main artist. Why did they have to just remove him from one issue?
It's very strange, Dave.
It would have been better if they had McCrae do like 2 to 3 more issues and then go back to Perkins.
You know, we have a couple DC artists on standby. I should probably just reach out and ask them, like, why do you do this, bro? Why do you do this? And it sounds like we're ungrateful, and we are. But honestly, Dave, I think what it comes down to is not that we don't like Perkins' art and we don't like McCree's art. It's McCree, right?
Yeah.
McCree's art. The fact is that we like both.
But
both. It also fucks with our own continuity when we're reading the story. We can't be the only comic book fans that get frustrated with this. We can't be. There has to be other comic book readers out there who get frustrated with the constant change in artists. You have a 10-part limited series. You're telling me you can't get one artist and one writer to just be the consistent powers across the board for 10 issues? You can't do that? Is that too much to ask for? Now, if you had an ongoing series, I understand. That's totally different. That's expected and par for the course, right, Dave? Like, that's been done since the dawn of time.
Yeah.
When you have an ongoing series, you're always going to have those change-outs of the creatives, right?
Uh-huh.
But when you're dealing with the limited runs, it can't be that hard to be like, hey, dude, we're going to contract you for 10 issues. Okay, cool. Don't go anywhere.
Don't go anywhere. Exactly.
I really don't understand. Now, maybe it's artist prerogative, which we can reach out to a few of those as well. I know a few of them that listen to our shows, and I, talk back and forth. I just don't want to be a douchebag that sends a message like, "Hey, dude, why do you guys change artists, bro?" I don't want to sound like I'm complaining to those ones.
No, because it's
to those individuals who don't really know the way I talk, and maybe there's a loss of context,
No, it's a very simple question to ask, because like, you were not saying that basically, oh, this artist is horrible and everything else. It's the fact that just visual continuity does affect your storytelling.
Imagine reading this as a trade paperback.
It's going to be a little jarring.
It's an eyesore.
Yeah.
Without a doubt. I mean, the same thing can be said about the recent Hellblazer run that just concluded last year that we actually really, really enjoyed. And we liked both artists for the most part, but it is jarring, especially because there's at least McCree and Perkins' style
is similar.
Is somewhat similar. Campbell and the other individual that shared artist responsibilities on Hellblazer, forgive me, I have forgotten the name. Their styles are completely different. One is more abstract. The other has a more vibrant, clear image and defining elements to the subjects.
It's a different style.
It's completely
different styles.
Completely different style.
Yeah.
And it does throw you off when you're in the middle of reading.
Yeah. And in this,
and I know we now bitch about this. It seems like every issue, and I don't like to do, or every episode of House of Mystery. And I don't want to do that because I don't want to sound like we're complaining. But it does.
Well, the one thing we could say about this, though, at least, is this transition isn't as bad as it could have been.
No, not at all.
Because I mean, you said just a moment ago, the good thing about this was the fact that McCrae and Perkins' art kind of meshed well.
Yeah.
When you get that, other comic book readers out there, that's going to go over their head because, hey, the artwork kind of just blends together.
Yeah.
But like when you get something like what we covered in Hellblazer, that was jarring That was like a smash cut in the face.
Yeah. and you can't help but take sides on that.
Yeah.
Like you can't, because the styles are so different. You're like, well, I prefer this one.
This one.
With McCree and Perkins, sure, you can say I prefer this one, but also it's not saying much because their styles are similar in a lot of ways. But I do agree with you. That being said, let's contradict ourselves. McCree was a better choice, I guess, for issue 5. And maybe that's why he did it. Maybe it was Ram V's call. Maybe he's like, hey, listen, you know what? Let me get another artist for this issue here because of the tone.
Easily.
Yeah.
Easily, because the tone also is very different from the last one.
Yeah. So
because we're dealing with the Suicide Squad now.
Yeah, so that could definitely be the case. Art, though, was pretty fantastic. I had mentioned this a few moments ago on the show. The titled 2-pager is truly fantastic. I mean, it's a perfect mixture of body horror and biological horror.
Yeah.
When you see the body in all those panels slowly forming
from an eyeball.
Yeah, from pieces of flesh into an eyeball, and then you see the combination of flesh and green mixing together to create the human body. It's pretty cool, I have to say. Like, it's very creative, and I would like to know if Ram V is writing that.
Is he
writing that much detail, or is this the artist's prerogative?
It's very Reanimator.
Yeah.
The Reanimator horror films are some of my favorites, especially when it comes to the body horror. And the panels, especially in this one, I will say issue number 6 gets it. I get that feeling of like a 1970s Reanimator film.
I agree.
And right from the get-go, where I feel that basically Ram V was kind of experimenting in the earlier issues and trying to find his
groove.
Yeah, his groove.
Yeah.
But here he found his groove in that one. Those that 2 opening pages, I was like going, okay, he went automatically back from, okay, we had this side story with John Constantine. It was a fun adventure. Back to the story at hand. And we're just going to shock everybody with some body horror just to get everyone re-engaged.
Mm-hmm. That was an abrupt stop, Dave. I wasn't sure if you were done. You're like, all right, I'm done. Fucking take over, Michael. I've talked enough. So the critical consensus on this issue here, or I want to say even this current run, is I feel like it's okay. I mean, it should be a lot better in my opinion. Now, Dave, issue 6 got an 8.6, which is fine. Issue 5, 8.8. How did that not get into the 9s when you're going to Comic Book Roundup? That is unbelievable. Unbelievable. I mean, I would even say issue 6 deserves to be in the 9.0s.
I think
easily.
So. Easily.
So I'm very disappointed in you comic book reviewers out there. You should be reviewing these more favorably.
Well, I also think that basically Ram V is touching on subjects that is not normally the consensus for comic book readers.
Mainstream appeal?
Yeah, mainstream appeal.
Yeah,
I mean, you don't have... Yeah, we have the Suicide Squad here, and... You know, we have like the otherworldly and supernatural and superhuman elements. But the way Ram V is telling his story, the superhuman elements that you would expect in a comic book story are kind of in the background. That's not what's important.
It's just the fluff.
The fluff.
Yeah.
It's the fluff. It's the crust.
Yeah. Yeah, Dave, why don't you give me your final thoughts and your RMD score?
My final thoughts on this issue. I really liked this issue, and I was really happy how this issue turned out, because originally I thought that this was just going to be a cash-in for the latest, Suicide Squad film, especially when you saw Peacemaker.
Yeah, I was a little nervous about that too.
And instead, the thing I really enjoy, and one of the last things that I have here that I really give kudos to Ram V, his writing for Peacekeeper was fantastic, because it wasn't done in a comedic way. Like, Peacekeeper seems like a viable threat,
Yeah.
He's just over the top, straight by the books. This is how everything goes. And I love the fact that he says, if you die, I just hope you have a peaceful death. And I'm like going, that's probably the closest thing you're going to get to a comedic element, like, say, from the movies. But here, Peacekeeper is treated like a legitimate threat. And I really appreciate that Ram V didn't go that route of going, hey, look, it's John Cena.
Yeah.
John Cena.
Yeah.
No, just write the character as you think it would fit in your story. And when you actually get introduced to the team of Suicide Squad, it makes sense why Ram V has this team in now, because they all bring different types of elements that connect to his overall theme of showing, to bringing up the question, is humanity worth saving when you have characters like these?
Yeah.
When you have a character like Heatwave, who is a douche.
Yeah.
Who's a
Yeah.
douche.
No, you're right, Dave. It's a good way to parallel.
It's a great way to continue your thematic parallels and stuff.
Yeah.
So, and then my score for this one is, I gave this one a 92. I really like this issue. It made me want to actually go see what the Suicide Squad tie-in was going to be about.
I fucking hate crossovers.
I hate
and-
crossovers,
and
but this
that's
one
wh-
made me want to do it.
But that's why I hate this one even more, because you're right. Now I'm interested in checking out Suicide Squad, especially if Nightmare Nurse is a part of it. Listen, I'm a Justice League Dark guy. This is the House of Mystery, the John Constantine and Friends show.
Yes.
Obviously, I'm going to be interested in checking out something that's connected to a former member of the Justice League Dark.
And you have Robbie Thompson writing.
Yes, and we
The king of
all hail
exploitation.
Robbie, the king of exploitation. Amazing. He's definitely found his niche and what he does, and that's why when it was announced that he was writing Suicide Squad, it made perfect sense. I'm like, dude,
It does,
it
doesn't
makes
it?
perfect sense for him to write Suicide Squad. All right, so my percentage, Dave, is 92%. 92% on the RMD scale. It was everything it needed to be. It also took a step back and allowed us to digest what has been given to us over the course of the last 2 or 3 issues. And it's setting the stage for the final quarter of this run. And I'm very excited to see what happens next. Ram V is making me think. And I love that in a comic book, when a writer can make me think and he's posing questions. And I like working when I read, to be honest with you. I know some people out there don't want to work when they read. I want to work. I want to really see what you're doing. I want to see the gears.
I want substance.
Yes, and that's exactly what Ram V does. So 92% on the RMD score. I want to remind everyone to check out our Patreon page. If you head over to patreon.com/RainmanDigital, you can pledge $1 for us. It would help tremendously. David, what are you doing over there?
I just dropped my phone.
Wow, what an infant. In your infancy.
In my infancy.
All right, so our Patreon, that's where I was at. Patreon.com/RainmanDigital. If you pledge $1 or more a month, you will gain access to our Oblivion Bar show. And that's essentially a pre-show to this show that we do pretty much before every single discussion. We talk about whatever in the world of John Constantine. It's more casual than this. It's just us getting ready, getting our vocal cords warmed up. But we do get into some pretty interesting topics. And sometimes we sit there for 5 minutes. Sometimes we sit there for 30 minutes. It just depends. And you can receive all of those episodes and more if you head over to patreon.com/RainmanDigital and pledge $1. We need it. We don't have corporate backing. We don't have deep pockets. In fact, we're very poor on this network. Don't let my background fool you. We do not have a lot of funds, and we need them if we hope to continue to do these shows. So patreon.com/RainmanDigital. What's a fucking dollar, right, David? What's a fucking dollar? Give me a fucking dollar. I mean, I probably could make more money if I decide to start panhandling outside the freeway.
Kinda.
I probably would. Maybe I can get a sign that says, go to my Patreon page. That'll be a new way of doing it.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah. I'm waiting for people to start doing that.
I'll do it. I'll be the first one. All right. I want to thank everyone for listening. Thank you, David.
Thank you.
And good night.